Ryan Burge's new book, The Vanishing Church, right now. He is absolutely the GOAT of church research and demographics, that sort of a thing. He understands and explains so much about American religious practice and how this changes. I use his research in my work all of the time. And in The Vanishing Church, he talks about this thing that I've actually uniquely experienced in the last couple of years in a really fun way. And I thought about, tell the story about how I experienced this. And the thing that he's talking about is until the 90s, the American church was fairly diverse, regardless if you're in the main line, if you're a Protestant, if you're Catholic, if you're evangelical, any of that sort of thing. Politically, you would find yourself sitting next to all sorts of different people of all sorts of different streams, and how that was really the strength of the church that paid off in the culture of our country. And now, fast forward into the 2020s, the only place that is still, diverse as far as people politically being in worship together is in the mainline church, which I'm part of because I work in the United Methodist Church as a congregational strategist for the Louisiana Conference United Methodist Church. But it made me think back to a situation that happened when I was in a small group a few years ago. My wife and I had moved back home, and my brother-in-law said, "Hey, come to this small group that I've been going to." And my brother-in-law and my sister go to the same church my dad pastored at for more than 40 years. And so it was a very easy thing for me to step into, the evangelical world as a mainline person now, because I knew, so many people that were already around that sphere, and a couple of people who were in that group. I'd gone to high school with one of them, had my brother-in-law, and then a couple of other folks I had been on trips with at my dad's church. So we stepped in this group, and it was kind of interesting from day one. And it was probably about 3 or 4 months in, politics kept coming up every single week when we gathered. And it was exasperating to some of us because I don't typically I don't read politics for fun. I'm not a political person whatsoever at all. But the person who was leading the group made a statement that was really outside the lines of what we were actually talking about that day. And he said, "I don't think it's possible for somebody to be a Christian and also be a Democrat." And the table just kind of got really, really quiet. It was awkward for about 15 seconds. And then a friend of mine who I'd gone to high school with, grew up together in church with, were the same age, had a lot of life experiences together, kind of chimed in and said, "Well, I find it really hard to think of how can somebody be a Christian and call themselves a Republican." And so the mood got weird. We tried to kind of, divert off some things, but it actually never recovered. And what's so funny is within about a month and a half after that, that group actually split. And I think that group split because that whole group, and really the person leading the group, could not handle it not being this homogenous group of people that agreed with 100%. And to say split, it kind of fell apart in some ways, but then also as people kind of started backing out, more folks started getting added in. And the last time I went to the group, it was pretty clear that there was multiple reasons why I just wasn't welcome there because I was just too different. And I'd said something afterwards several times about the whole issue and about how I disagreed with the statement that Christianity is automatically tied to a political party, which is one of the things that Burge has talked about has happened more and more and more since the 90s, is that American Christianity now is almost completely identified with a ultra-conservative viewpoint politically. Now, what's interesting is about 4 or 5 of us that were in that group started meeting together. And we started hanging out, started going trips together, started having dinners together, just kind of kept up the relationship side of it. And the funny thing is that group is actually probably split 50-50 politically. And the conversations will come up sometimes, but we don't stay on them. We'll pick at each other about stuff because we know each other really well. That group of people can maintain that political diversity. They don't have to be homogenous in belief. And we've kept up some other stuff. There's some racial diversity in that group, and that's caused us to have conversations about race that could not have happened in a previous spectrum. So all of this thing to share, I feel like it's really important for us to know that for the last 30 years, we have been discipled by secular culture to be incredibly divisive. And that it does not do us good as far as just our culture in America, but also it significantly hurts the church and it keeps the church from accomplishing this mission that we have been given to do. So I will end with this. go read Ryan Burge's book, The Vanishing Church. I think it's a fantastic thing for anybody to think about.